Rings of Power is currently in production mode for season 3 right here in the UK, and can you feel the excitement? Okay, so it's a pretty quiet time really for Rings of Power, and I think there is still some discussion online. It mostly seems to centre on how bad the show is and whether or not they can turn it around, which is probably fair. So there are fans who hate it for its treatment of the source material, such as dwarf women not having beards, and other things. So Rings of Power, what is it? It's a second age prequel to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Now the show is basically compressed thousands of years of history, of timeline, which you kind of have to do for screen, but that does really alter a sense of scale and time that define Tolkien's world. The characters themselves have come in for a lot of criticism. The one that got the most hatred, I think, was probably the first season incarnation of Galadriel, played by the Welsh actress Morfydd Clark. She's been reimagined as this kind of hardened, sword-wielding lead, more in line with modern action heroines, than the ethereal, wise figure that people know from the Jackson film. So the Rings of Power have given us a Galadriel who trades in timeless grace for a permanent war face. And depending on whom you ask, that's either bold reinvention or a crime against Tolkien. He described her as having an Amazon disposition, meaning she was warlike and physically powerful, and these traits are rooted in her first age characterization. And I think she should probably always have some sort of mystique as a character, and just having her as a lead, you are naturally going to lose some of that mystique. Clark in season 1 gives a really intentional, committed turn that was meant to set up her 5-season arc. She was the face of season 1, and she took the brunt of the criticism, a lot of it from men, but her Galadriel was also truly polarising, with some viewers just finding her too one-note and too much of what they call a modern girl boss. She reminded me a little bit of Moses Ingram in Kenobi, quite a gentle actress playing this tough warrior type. And she's quite petite, and she looks quite petite on screen, and she's quite ethereal, fragile. Her voice has this lilting fairy tale quality. Galadriel in a warrior phase probably needed somebody with like a bolder, dramatic essence. Now, I know there are some people who claim to absolutely love this warrior incarnation of Galadriel. If we look at the actress's statements, she told Empire, "I would flinch a lot when people came at me, so they did exposure therapy with me, where I would have all these huge men running at me, screaming with swords, to stop me from looking frightened." Do you think Viggo flinched? Do you think Viggo flinched? She's not scary, she's scared. And this is the kind of thing that makes her so good for psychological horror like St. Maud. There's this fragility beneath the fury that makes her believable as someone drawn to darkness. When the show finished its first season, something that fans did actually connect with was, or some fans connected with, was this romance, this relationship between Galadriel and Halbrand, aka Sauron. And according to Charlie Vickers, who plays the character, this was less connoted in the script. He told Yahoo UK, "I found it surprising because I don't think we were really that conscious of it when we were filming it. But it's great. I think it's a cool byproduct of the show. If that's a story that came from the first season, it's only a positive thing, I think." Co-showrunner Patrick McKay said, "Jennifer Hutchinson, an executive producer in the first 2 seasons and writer on the show, said, everyone's going to ship these two. We're like, that's crazy, they're enemies. What are you talking about? So Jenny, you were right." And then Payne added, "I think whenever you have 2 talented thematic people like this in a scenes together, it's very natural people are going to pick up on the chemistry they have between them." Now, I have to say that I really do believe Payne and McKay here. If they had intended to create an incredible romance and incredible chemistry, they would have failed. They did market Halbrand as a love interest before season 1, but I do think that was more about trying to disguise the fact that he was actually Sauron. I think it was all part of hiding their big twist that they were so proud of. The showrunners didn't really seem to think that much about what would happen after their big twist, after their big reveal about his identity. And this left Galadriel in a really bad position. The showrunners could have had Halbrand reveal himself as Anatar to Galadriel. She was actually canonically in Eregion at the same time as Anatar, and we know she was suspicious of him. He could have come out and said, I'm actually really Anatar. We begin to see a different side of Galadriel. But that's pretty much lost at the end. We have an obligatory fight scene with Sauron. And then it looked like she might actually step back from the military role at the end of season 2. And apparently it was actually Morfydd Clark's idea to have Gil-galad hold the sword in the final scene of season 2, and not her. With Clark telling Nerdist, I just felt that Gil-galad was going to be leading the charge in terms of the sword, and that she's moving away from that being her role. She's in a very different space that isn't necessarily the desire to lead or have power, and it just felt right. Filming season 3 now, as I mentioned at the start, and there have been some recent set photos that show Morfydd's body double wearing armour. So it looks like perhaps we will be getting more warrior Galadriel after all. There's speculation that Celeborn, her husband, will be making an appearance. Now during season 2 filming, the fan site, I think Fellowship of Fans, scooped that the actor Callum Lynch was going to be Celeborn and that he was going to be the face of season 2. Turned out he actually was only playing a minor character. But this time round, Fellowship of Fans are saying that Jamie Campbell Bower is going to be playing a canon book elf, and it's pretty much been narrowed down to either Glorfindel or Celeborn. Now, I think Glorfindel would be pretty pointless to the story. They haven't got enough for Arondir to do. They haven't got enough for him to do. Would they really need another leading warrior elf? If Jamie Campbell Bower is Celeborn, perhaps they will give Celeborn Glorfindel's role, having him sent back by the Valar, and combine them into one character. It's going to mean that the Witch King is going to be Kemin, or Isildur's girlfriend's boyfriend. You could argue that Celeborn and Galadriel spent a lot of time apart in the lore. They made a decision to leave him out, and I'd rather see her navigating life post-stabbing and have her only reunited with Celeborn in the epilogue. I think that would be more interesting than going on a really long rescue mission to find Celeborn, or see her going through marriage counselling or whatever.